in the harsh beauty of the Arizona Territory, where copper-red mesas rise like ancient sentinels against an endless turquoise sky. There once existed a town that defied the very nature of abandonment. Roanoke Bell nestled in a valley where silver veins ran thick through granite walls, and for 7 prosperous years the sound of pickaxes and dynamite echoed through the canyon like a metallic heartbeat. The town pulsed with life. Miners emerging from the depths with silver-stained hands, merchants hawking their wares beneath canvas awnings. The year 1891 arrived with the same scorching summers and bitter winters that had always defined this corner of the desert. Yet something imperceptible had shifted in the very air itself. The townspeople of Roanoke Bell went about their daily routines with an urgency that none could quite explain. Wives hurried through their morning preparations, shopkeepers restocked their shelves with unusual haste, and even the saloon keeper found himself polishing glasses with an intensity that bordered on desperation. It was as if some collective unconscious had whispered a warning that time was running short. Though for what? On the morning of September 15, 1891, the sun rose over Roanoke Bell to illuminate a mystery that would haunt the American West for generations to come. Every living soul had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a tableau so perfectly preserved that it seemed as though the entire population had simply stepped out for a moment and forgotten to return. In the boarding house, breakfast plates sat half-finished on wooden tables, the eggs still soft, the coffee still warm to the touch. Candles flickered in windows, their wax having dripped only minutes' worth onto the sills below. The general store revealed perhaps the most haunting scene of all: coins scattered across the counter, as if a transaction had been interrupted mid-exchange, a bolt of blue calico unrolled and measured, but never cut, and a child's penny candy still clutched in a small paper sack. In the schoolhouse, chalk dust hung suspended in afternoon sunbeams, and children's slates bore half-completed arithmetic problems, the numbers trailing off as if young hands had been called away by some irresistible summons. Even more perplexing were the signs of interrupted intimacy throughout the town. In bedrooms, nightgowns lay draped over chairbacks as if their wearers had been in the process of dressing for the day. Love letters sat half-written on kitchen tables, the ink still wet, passionate words ending mid-sentence with no explanation for the sudden silence. Wedding rings gleamed on nightstands beside beds that had been slept in but never made, and family photographs stared out from mantels with an accusatory intensity, as if demanding answers that would never come. The theories emerged as swiftly as tumbleweeds in a desert wind, each more desperate than the last. Some whispered of Apache raids, though no bodies were found, no blood spilled, no signs of struggle or violence. The local Apache bands, when questioned by territorial authorities, spoke of the place with hushed reverence, claiming that the spirits of the earth had reclaimed what was always theirs. They refused to enter the valley, crossing themselves in the ancient way and murmuring prayers to protect them from whatever force had swept through Roanoke Bell like an invisible flood. Others proposed more earthly explanations. A sudden outbreak of disease so virulent that the townspeople had fled en masse, leaving everything behind in their panic. Yet medical authorities who examined the abandoned settlement found no evidence of plague, cholera, or any of the familiar killers that stalked frontier communities. The food remained fresh, the water clear, and even the livestock in the surrounding areas showed no signs of illness or distress. Perhaps the most unsettling theory came from a traveling preacher who claimed that the entire population had experienced a collective religious rapture, ascending bodily to heaven while leaving their earthly possessions behind. He pointed to the unfinished prayers found in several homes, to the way personal items seemed arranged as if their owners had simply dissolved where they stood. The preacher's theory gained little credence among the practical-minded settlers, Yet none could offer a more satisfactory explanation for the preservation of such intimate, interrupted moments. As decades passed and the mystery deepened, Roanoke Bell became a pilgrimage site for those drawn to the inexplicable. Photographers captured images of rooms where dust motes danced in shafts of light, seemingly frozen in the exact patterns they had held on that September morning. Writers came seeking inspiration and left with more questions than stories, their rational minds struggling to process a reality that defied every law of cause and effect they had ever known. The town exists still, a perfect museum of interrupted lives, where time seems to have paused rather than stopped. Visitors report an overwhelming sense of presence, as if the vanished residents hover just beyond perception, waiting for some cosmic signal to return to their half-finished breakfasts and incomplete conversations. The silence in Roanoke Bell is not the empty quiet of abandonment, but the pregnant hush of a held breath, a pause between heartbeats that has stretched across more than a century. In the end, perhaps the mystery of Roanoke Bell serves as a reminder that human existence itself hangs by threads more fragile than we dare acknowledge. In a world where entire communities can vanish between one moment and the next, leaving behind only the beautiful, terrible evidence of lives lived in the assumption of tomorrow, we are confronted with the essential mystery of our own presence in an uncertain universe. Yet some vanishings leave behind more than empty buildings. They leave behind voices that refuse to be silenced. Deep beneath the wind-swept plains of Colorado, where the earth holds its secrets in veins of precious metal and chambers carved by forgotten waters, there exists a phenomenon that transforms the very darkness into song. The Silver Creek mines, sealed for over a century since the catastrophic cave-in of 1889, have become the source of a mystery that defies every attempt at rational explanation. A mystery that reveals itself only when the full moon reaches its zenith and bathes the prairie in silver light. The first reports of the underground melodies came from night watchmen who guarded the sealed mine entrances, men whose practical nature made them unlikely candidates for flights of fancy. They described sounds that seemed to emanate from the deepest shafts, harmonies so pure and ethereal that they brought tears to the eyes of weathered miners who had spent their lives surrounded by the harsh percussion of pickaxes against stone. These were not the groans and settles of shifting earth, nor the whistle of wind through abandoned tunnels, but something far more profound. A chorus of voices singing in perfect harmony, their words lost in languages that predated any human settlement of the region. The musical phenomenon followed a pattern as predictable as the phases of the moon itself. On nights when Earth's satellite hung full and luminous in the star-scattered sky, the mines would begin their otherworldly concert, precisely at midnight, the melodies rising from the sealed shafts like incense from hidden altars. The songs would continue until dawn, never repeating, never faltering, as if some celestial conductor directed an invisible choir through an endless repertoire of compositions that had never been heard on the surface world. What made the singing even more mysterious were the testimonies of the miners who had worked the deepest shafts before the disaster that sealed them forever. Old-timers spoke of hearing faint melodies even during their working hours, harmonies that seemed to guide their movements through the labyrinthine passages and warn them away from unstable sections of tunnel. They described how the music would grow stronger as they descended deeper into the earth, as if approaching the source of some ancient broadcasting station that transmitted its signal through solid rock rather than air. The cave-in of 1889 had claimed 17 lives, but the survivors' accounts suggested that the disaster itself had been preceded by a crescendo of underground music, so beautiful and overwhelming that many miners had stopped their work to listen. In their final testimonies, recorded by territorial authorities investigating the tragedy, Several survivors insisted that the collapse had occurred not from structural failure, but from some kind of harmonic resonance that had literally sung the support beams apart, causing the Earth to reclaim its hidden chambers in a symphony of destruction. Scientific expeditions mounted in the early decades of the 20th century attempted to record and analyze the mysterious melodies, but their efforts met with consistent failure. Sensitive recording equipment lowered into the sealed shafts captured nothing but silence, while the same instruments placed on the surface registered the full richness of the underground concerts. It was as if the music existed in a frequency that could only be perceived by human consciousness, requiring the presence of a living soul to bridge the gap between the singing earth and the world above. Acoustic engineers proposed theories involving underground water systems, suggesting that the sealed mines had become vast, resonating chambers where groundwater created natural organ pipes in the abandoned tunnels. Yet these explanations crumbled when faced with the undeniable musicality of the sounds. The sophisticated harmonies, the emotional phrasing, and the way different sections of the mine seemed to sing in counterpoint with one another, creating compositions of breathtaking complexity and beauty. The local Ute tribes, whose ancestors had lived in the region for countless generations before the first prospectors arrived, offered a different perspective on the underground melodies. Their oral histories spoke of the earth itself as a living entity with its own voice, a consciousness that expressed its dreams through song. According to their beliefs, the miners had inadvertently broken through into sacred chambers where the spirits of the earth gathered to perform their eternal ceremonies, and the cave-in had been the earth's way of protecting these holy spaces from further intrusion. The tribal elders explained that the music served as a bridge between the world of the living and the realm of the ancestors, allowing the spirits of the deceased miners to join their voices with the ancient chorus that had sung in those depths since the formation of the mountains themselves. They warned that attempts to reopen the mines would not only silence the music forever, but would also trap the souls of those who had died in the collapse, condemning them to wander the surface world without the guiding songs to lead them home. Modern visitors to the Silver Creek mine site report that the phenomenon continues unchanged, a testament to mysteries that transcend human understanding of physics and acoustics. On clear nights when the moon is full, pilgrims gather on the prairie above the sealed entrances, sitting in reverent silence as the earth beneath their feet transforms into a cathedral of sound. Many describe the experience as deeply spiritual, a communion with forces that exist beyond the boundaries of the material world. The songs themselves seem to carry an emotional weight that affects each listener differently. Some report overwhelming feelings of peace and belonging, as if the music were welcoming them home to a place they had never seen. Others experience profound grief, as though the melodies were lamentations for losses too deep for human language to express. A few sensitive individuals claim that they can distinguish individual voices within the chorus, recognizing the vocal characteristics of miners who died in the collapse and whose names are engraved on the memorial stone that stands sentinel over the sealed entrances. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the Silver Creek phenomenon is its consistency across more than a century of observation. The music continues to rise from the depths on schedule, unchanged by the passage of time, unaffected by weather or season, as eternal and reliable as the movements of celestial bodies. In a world where mysteries are solved and wonders explained away, the singing mines remain a sanctuary for the inexplicable, a place where the earth itself becomes a voice lifted in songs that speak to something deeper than human understanding. The mystery of Silver Creek suggests that the boundary between the living and the dead, between the material and the spiritual, may be far more permeable than modern consciousness dares to acknowledge. In the depths of the earth, where darkness reigns eternal and silence should be absolute, voices continue to sing their ancient songs, reminding us that consciousness itself, may be a far more fundamental force than we have ever imagined. While some mysteries reveal themselves through sound, others manifest in the very fabric of the earth itself. In the remote reaches of Nevada's high desert, where the landscape stretches endlessly beneath a dome of crystalline sky, there exists a place that challenges the most fundamental assumptions about the nature of solid matter and the permanence of stone. Devil's Garden, as the early prospectors named it, sprawls across several acres of alkali flats, its surface dotted with massive granite boulders that seem to have been scattered by some titanic force across the barren ground, like dice thrown by gods in a cosmic game of chance. These are not ordinary stones. Each boulder weighs several tons, their surfaces worn smooth by millennia of wind and weather, yet marked with strange striations that suggest movement across the hard-pan desert floor. The stones themselves tell a story, written in scratched earth and displaced gravel. A narrative of impossible journeys undertaken in the darkness, when no human eyes bear witness to their silent choreography. The first documented reports of the stones' movement came from cavalry patrols in the 1870s, soldiers whose duty required them to maintain detailed maps of the territory for military purposes. Lieutenant Samuel Morrison, leading a survey expedition through the region, noted in his official report a cluster of 7 large boulders arranged in what appeared to be a perfect circle near a dry creek bed. When his unit returned along the same route 3 weeks later, the stones had rearranged themselves into a straight line pointing directly toward the distant mountains, as if indicating some invisible pathway across the desert expanse. Morrison's account might have been dismissed as the result of faulty memory or poor navigation, but subsequent expeditions confirmed the phenomenon with meticulous documentation. Surveyor teams began placing wooden stakes around individual boulders, creating reference points that would reveal any displacement. Their measurements, recorded with the precision demanded by territorial mapping projects, showed that the stones moved with startling regularity, traveling distances of anywhere from several feet to nearly a quarter mile in a single night. The movements followed no discernible pattern that human logic could decode. Sometimes, the boulders would cluster together as if seeking companionship in the vast loneliness of the desert. Other times, they would spread apart, creating geometric formations that seemed to mirror constellations in the night sky above. Occasionally, a single stone would embark on a solitary journey across the flats, leaving behind a perfectly straight furrow in the hard-pan earth, its destination apparently predetermined by forces beyond human comprehension. What made the phenomenon even more mystifying was the complete absence of any physical mechanism that could account for such massive displacement. The stones showed no signs of having been rolled or dragged, no gouges in their surfaces, no accumulation of debris, no disturbance of the smaller rocks and gravel that surrounded them. They appeared to glide across the desert floor with the effortless grace of ships upon a calm sea, leaving behind only the faintest traces of their passage. Scientific expeditions in the early 20th century attempted to solve the mystery through systematic observation and measurement. Teams of geologists established permanent observation posts around the perimeter of Devil's Garden, equipping them with the most sensitive instruments available for detecting ground vibration, magnetic field fluctuations, and atmospheric pressure changes. Night after night, they maintained their vigil, cameras and seismographs ready to capture evidence of the force that animated the ancient stones. Their efforts yielded only deeper mysteries. The instruments recorded no seismic activity, no electromagnetic anomalies, no changes in barometric pressure that might account for the stone's movement. The photographs taken during the periods of displacement showed only empty desert landscapes, the boulders appearing as motionless as they had for centuries. Yet morning light invariably revealed new arrangements, fresh furrows in the earth, and evidence of journeys completed in absolute silence and invisibility. The local Paiute people, whose ancestors had inhabited this region for countless generations, possessed oral traditions that offered a different understanding of the moving stones. According to their beliefs, the boulders were not inanimate objects, but the physical manifestations of earth spirits engaged in an eternal dance that had begun when the world was young. The spirits gathered in Devil's Garden to perform ceremonies that maintained the balance between the physical and spiritual realms, their movements tracing patterns of power across the sacred landscape. Tribal elders spoke of the stones as guardians of ancient knowledge, repositories of wisdom accumulated over millennia of existence. They warned that attempts to interfere with the stones' movements or to remove them from their desert home would bring misfortune to those who violated the sanctity of the spirit dance. The elders explained that the movements occurred according to celestial cycles that governed all spiritual activity, following rhythms that human consciousness could perceive but never fully comprehend. The indigenous understanding of the phenomenon emphasized the interconnectedness of all things, describing how the movement of the stones influenced weather patterns, animal migrations, and even the dreams of people sleeping many miles away. According to these teachings, Devil's Garden served as a kind of spiritual broadcasting station, transmitting energetic information across vast distances through the movement of its ancient stone dancers. Modern attempts to monitor the phenomenon using motion, activated cameras, and satellite surveillance have produced results that only deepen the mystery. The electronic equipment consistently malfunctions during the periods when the stones are known to move, batteries draining inexplicably, digital files becoming corrupted, and sophisticated GPS tracking devices losing their signals as if the stones themselves existed outside the normal fabric of space and time. Some researchers have proposed that the movements might be caused by underground water systems that periodically flood subterranean chambers, creating hydraulic forces capable of lifting and displacing the massive boulders. Others suggest that seismic activity too subtle for conventional instruments to detect might create resonance patterns that cause the stones to walk across the desert surface through harmonic vibration. Yet these theoretical explanations fail to account for the purposeful nature of the movements, the way the stones seem to communicate with one another across distances, arranging themselves in patterns that suggest intelligence and intention rather than random geological processes. Visitors to Devil's Garden often report feeling a sense of ancient consciousness emanating from the stones, as if the boulders possessed awareness that transcended the boundaries between living and non-living matter. The mystery of the moving stones invites contemplation of consciousness itself as a fundamental property of the universe, not limited to biological organisms, but present in all matter at the most basic level. Perhaps what appears to be inanimate stone is actually another form of life, operating according to principles of existence that human science has yet to discover or acknowledge. In the endless silence of the Nevada desert, where time moves with geological patience and the horizon dissolves into dreams of eternity, the stones continue their ancient dance, indifferent to human attempts at explanation, content to move according to rhythms that have governed their existence since the formation of the continents themselves. As stones dance their ancient choreography, the very air itself holds memories of those who dared to challenge the frontier. Across the sun-baked expanse of the Texas Panhandle, where the horizon shimmers like liquid silver beneath an endless vault of azure sky, the small settlement of Adobe Wells maintains its quiet vigil over mysteries that defy the rational order of the modern world. Here, in this forgotten corner of the frontier, where wind-carved adobe buildings stand sentinel against the relentless passage of time, witnesses have recorded one of the most persistent and haunting phenomena in the annals of American paranormal history. The phantom procession appears with clockwork precision on the anniversary of a tragedy that official military records have somehow failed to preserve, yet which lives on in the collective memory of those who have witnessed its ghostly reenactment. Every September 23rd, as the sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, and the desert air grows heavy with the promise of twilight. The sound of approaching hoofbeats echoes across the alkali flats surrounding Adobe Wells, announcing the arrival of riders who cast no shadows despite the clarity of their appearance. The 7th Cavalry Regiment emerges from the heat mirages, like a scene painted on translucent glass. Their blue uniforms still crisp despite more than a century of spectral wandering, their weapons gleaming with the ethereal polish of otherworldly maintenance. The mounted soldiers ride in perfect formation, their faces bearing the weathered determination of men accustomed to the hardships of frontier duty, yet marked by an otherworldly serenity that speaks of resignation to a fate beyond earthly understanding. Historical investigation into the regiment's earthly existence reveals a story preserved more in whispered legend than in official documentation. In September of 1878, Captain Marcus Whitmore led a routine patrol of 47 men from Fort Richardson on a mission to establish communication with isolated settlements along the Comanche frontier. The patrol was expected to complete its circuit within 2 weeks, checking on remote outposts and gathering intelligence about Native American activities in the region. When the deadline passed without word from Captain Whitmore's command, search parties were dispatched to trace their intended route. The searchers found evidence of the patrol's passage: abandoned campsites with cold ashes, horse tracks leading into the desert, and personal items scattered along what appeared to be a trail of growing desperation. Yet the soldiers themselves had vanished as completely as if the earth had opened to swallow them, leaving behind only questions that official inquiries seemed reluctant to pursue. The mystery deepened when surviving records from the period showed inconsistencies that suggested deliberate obscuration of the facts. Military rosters from Fort Richardson contained names that appeared and disappeared without explanation, duty assignments that referenced missions never officially authorized, and correspondence that alluded to events that subsequent reports claimed had never occurred. It was as if the very existence of Captain Whitmore's patrol had been systematically erased from history, leaving only the ghostly evidence of their eternal march to prove they had ever lived at all. The first documented sighting of the Phantom Regiment occurred in 1895, witnessed by a traveling photographer named Jonathan Pierce, who had stopped in Adobe Wells to capture images of frontier life for an Eastern magazine. Pierce described being awakened from sleep by the sound of approaching cavalry, expecting to greet living soldiers who might provide information about safe passage through the territory. Instead, he found himself observing a procession that seemed to exist in a realm parallel to the physical world, visible yet untouchable, present yet somehow displaced in time. Pierce's photographs of the event, later examined by experts in both photography and paranormal phenomena, showed only empty desert landscapes, despite his sworn testimony that the images had been captured during the regiment's manifestation. The plates revealed no double exposures, no signs of tampering or manipulation, yet they documented nothing but vacant terrain where Pierce insisted he had observed dozens of mounted soldiers in perfect detail. Subsequent witnesses have provided remarkably consistent descriptions of the Phantom Regiment's appearance and behavior, despite the fact that many had no knowledge of previous sightings when they encountered the spectral cavalry. The soldiers always appear in the same formation, riding at the same measured pace, their faces turned toward some distant objective that exists beyond the visible horizon. They never acknowledge the presence of living observers, never deviate from their predetermined path. The emotional impact of witnessing the Phantom Regiment affects different observers in profoundly personal ways. Some report overwhelming feelings of sadness, as if the weight of the soldiers' unfinished mission presses upon their own hearts like a physical burden. Others describe a sense of honor and nobility that elevates their understanding of duty and sacrifice, leaving them forever changed by their encounter with men who continue to serve even in death. Family members of the missing soldiers, descendants who have maintained oral traditions about their vanished ancestors, speak of dreams in which they communicate with the phantom riders, receiving messages of love and reassurance that transcend the barriers of mortality. These dreams often contain specific details about family history that the dreamers could not have known through normal means, suggesting that the spectral regiment serves as a bridge between the living and the dead, carrying communications across the void that separates different states of existence. The phenomenon has attracted the attention of paranormal researchers who theorize that traumatic events can create recordings in the fabric of space-time itself, replaying endlessly like echoes that refuse to fade. According to this interpretation, the Phantom Regiment represents not conscious spirits, but rather psychic imprints left by men who died while focused intensely on completing their mission, their dedication so powerful that it continues to manifest long after their physical forms have returned to dust. Yet this explanation fails to account for the interactive elements reported by some witnesses. The way individual soldiers occasionally turn their heads as if aware of being observed, or the variations in the regiment's formation that suggest conscious decision-making rather than mechanical repetition. These subtle changes in the phenomenon indicate that whatever force animates the Phantom Cavalry possesses awareness and intelligence, characteristics that transcend mere psychic recordings. The mystery of Adobe Wells forces confrontation with fundamental questions about the nature of time, consciousness, and the persistence of human purpose beyond death. If dedication to duty can survive the dissolution of the physical body, the Phantom Regiment suggests that some commitments run so deep that they become woven into the very structure of reality, creating obligations that death itself cannot discharge. Local residents of Adobe Wells have learned to live with their spectral visitors, treating the annual manifestation as a sacred event that connects them to the heroic struggles of the past. Children grow up knowing that certain nights belong to the Phantom soldiers, and families gather on rooftops and porches to witness the procession with a mixture of reverence and wonder that transforms a paranormal phenomenon into a community ritual of remembrance. The Phantom Regiment continues its eternal patrol, searching perhaps for a mission completion that can never be achieved, or maybe serving as guardians of a frontier that exists now only in the realm of memory and spirit. Their ghostly presence reminds all who witness it that some aspects of human dedication transcend the temporary boundaries of mortal existence, creating bonds of service that connect the living and the dead in shared commitment to ideals larger than individual life. While Phantom soldiers march eternal patrols, other spirits find themselves bound to the places where they drew their final breath, along the serpentine banks of Willow Creek, where ancient cottonwoods cast their shadows across waters that have witnessed both joy and unspeakable tragedy. There walks a figure whose sorrow has become as much a part of the landscape as the stones that line the creek bed. Her presence transforms the gentle murmur of flowing water into something deeper and more haunting, a lament that speaks to the universal experience of loss, while remaining forever anchored to one particular moment of devastation that refuses to fade with the passing decades. The woman appears always at twilight, when the dying light creates veils of mist above the creek's surface, and the boundary between the visible and invisible worlds grows thin as gossamer. She moves with the fluid grace of someone accustomed to walking along water's edge, her long dress trailing behind her like liquid shadow, her face turned perpetually toward the rushing current, as if searching for something precious that the waters have carried away forever. Those who have encountered her speak of an overwhelming sense of maternal anguish that radiates from her form, like heat from a forge. A grief so profound that it seems to alter the very atmosphere around her presence. The air grows heavy with unshed tears, and even the hardest hearts find themselves moved to weeping by proximity to sorrow that has crystallized into a force of nature, as permanent and powerful as the creek itself. The tragedy that anchors her to this place occurred during the spring floods of 1885, when winter snowmelt in the distant mountains combined with unseasonable rains to transform Willow Creek from a gentle waterway into a raging torrent of destruction. The Henley family. Thomas, his wife Margaret, and their 3 children had built their homestead in the fertile bottomland beside the creek, trusting in the gentle nature of waters that had never before shown signs of violence or unpredictability. Margaret Henley had been known throughout the small farming community as a woman of exceptional devotion to her children, spending her days teaching them to read from the only book the family possessed, a worn Bible that had belonged to her grandmother. Neighbors recalled how she would gather little Sarah, James, and baby Catherine around her each evening, their voices joining hers in songs that carried across the water and seemed to bless the entire valley with their innocent harmony. The flood struck with the sudden fury of a living thing awakened to rage, transforming the peaceful creek into a monster that devoured everything in its path. The Henley cabin, built on what had seemed like safely elevated ground, found itself surrounded by waters that rose with impossible speed, turning familiar meadows into temporary lakes that reflected the lightning-split sky like broken mirrors. Thomas Henley fought desperately to save his family, lashing together furniture to create a makeshift raft, while Margaret gathered their few precious possessions and tried to keep the children calm despite the terror that filled the night air. Witnesses from higher ground described seeing the family's lantern light moving frantically within the cabin as the water continued to rise, turning their home into an island that grew smaller with each passing minute. The final moments of the Henley family were witnessed by Samuel Morrison, a neighbor who had climbed into the upper branches of a massive cottonwood to escape the flood himself. Morrison testified later that he had seen Margaret emerge from the cabin carrying baby Catherine, her other 2 children clinging to her dress as she attempted to reach the makeshift raft that Thomas had secured to their porch. The lantern light illuminated her face for one terrible instant, revealing an expression of absolute determination, mixed with the kind of love that transcends fear even in the face of certain death. Then the cabin disintegrated, swept away by a wall of water that carried with it the accumulated debris of an entire watershed, trees, boulders, and the shattered remains of other homesteads that had fallen victim to the creek's unprecedented fury. Morrison lost sight of the family in the chaos, though he continued to hear Margaret's voice calling her children's names long after the physical forms had disappeared into the roiling darkness of the flood. The bodies were recovered over the following weeks, scattered along the creek's path for miles downstream from their former home. Thomas was found wrapped around a tree trunk, his arms still positioned, as if protecting someone he could no longer hold. The children were discovered together in a quiet eddy, where the flood had deposited them gently, as if the waters had finally remembered their capacity for mercy. But Margaret Henley was never found, despite extensive searches that continued for months after the floodwaters receded. The first sighting of the Weeping Woman occurred exactly 1 year after the tragedy, witnessed by a traveling minister who had stopped beside Willow Creek to water his horse. Reverend Joshua Matthews described encountering a figure in a long dress who walked along the water's edge, calling children's names in a voice that seemed to harmonize with the sound of flowing water itself. When he approached to offer assistance, believing her to be a living woman in distress, she turned toward him with a face that bore the unmistakable features of Margaret Henley, whom he had known in life. Matthews reported that her eyes held a depth of sorrow that seemed to contain all the grief that had ever existed in the world. Yet beneath the pain lay an unquenchable flame of maternal love that death itself could not extinguish. She spoke to him not in words, but in a communication that bypassed language entirely, conveying through pure emotion her eternal search for the children who had been swept from her arms by forces beyond her power to resist. The phenomenon of the Weeping Woman has been reported consistently across multiple generations, with witnesses describing encounters that follow remarkably similar patterns, despite their separation in time and space. She always appears at moments when the creek runs high with snowmelt or storm water, as if the sound of rushing water calls to some deep memory of that terrible night when her world was swept away. Her presence seems most palpable during times when other families face their own crises, as if her spirit is drawn to comfort those who understand the fragility of happiness and the terrible swiftness with which love can be transformed into loss. The cultural resonance of Margaret Henley's story has given rise to variations of the Weeping Woman legend throughout the American Southwest, where Hispanic communities tell of La Llorona, the crying woman who wanders near water seeking her lost children. Indigenous tribes of the region possess their own versions of the water spirit woman, ancient stories that predate European settlement, yet share the same essential elements of maternal grief and the search for children claimed by flooding waters. These parallel legends suggest that the archetype of the grieving mother transcends cultural boundaries, speaking to something fundamental in human experience about the bonds between parent and child, and the way that love can persist beyond the destruction of the physical world. Margaret Henley's spirit seems to have tapped into this universal reservoir of maternal anguish, transforming her personal tragedy into a symbol that resonates across different traditions and belief systems. Modern visitors to Willow Creek often report experiences that extend beyond simple ghost sightings, describing encounters that feel more like profound emotional healing than supernatural terror. Mothers who have lost children speak of finding comfort in the presence of Margaret's spirit, as if her eternal vigil provides validation for their own grief and permission to love beyond the boundaries of loss. The weeping woman's presence seems to offer a form of communion with sorrow that transforms individual suffering into shared understanding. Psychological researchers have studied the phenomenon as an example of how traumatic events can create lasting imprints on specific locations, suggesting that places can absorb and replay emotional experiences with the same fidelity as magnetic tape recording sound. Yet this clinical interpretation fails to account for the interactive nature of encounters with the weeping woman, the way she seems to respond to the emotional needs of those who meet her along the water's edge. Perhaps the mystery of Margaret Henley's persistence lies not in the mechanism of haunting, but in the power of love itself, to transcend the limitations of physical existence. Her story suggests that certain emotions, particularly the protective love of a parent for a child, may possess a kind of immortality that allows them to continue expressing themselves long after the hearts that first felt them have ceased to beat. The Weeping Woman of Willow Creek remains a testament to the idea that love, in its purest and most desperate forms, can reshape reality itself, creating bridges between the worlds of the living and the dead that allow connection and communication across the void of mortality. Her eternal search continues, a reminder that some losses are too profound to be healed by time, yet too sacred to be forgotten by the world. Some spirits are anchored by sorrow, while others are drawn by treasures that transcend earthly wealth. Deep in the heart of Arizona's Superstition Mountains, where ancient volcanic peaks pierce the desert sky like gnarled fingers of stone, lies one of the American West's most enduring and deadly mysteries. For over a century, the legendary Lost Dutchman's mine has lured treasure seekers into a labyrinth of canyons and ridges where gold fever transforms into something far more sinister. A curse that has claimed lives, shattered minds, and left investigators questioning whether some treasures are meant to remain forever hidden. The legend begins with Jacob Waltz, a German immigrant whose dying words in 1891 spoke of a mine so rich with gold that a man could extract a fortune with nothing more than a kitchen knife. Waltz, known locally as the Dutchman, despite his German heritage, had appeared in Phoenix periodically throughout the 1880s with leather pouches filled with gold ore of such exceptional purity that assayers could barely believe their instruments. When pressed about the source of his wealth, the old prospector would simply smile and gesture toward the forbidding peaks of Superstition Mountain, where Apache warriors once made their final stand against American expansion. But Waltz's death marked the beginning of the mountain's reputation for claiming lives with ruthless efficiency. Within months of his passing, the first wave of gold seekers ventured into the treacherous terrain, following cryptic clues left in the Dutchman's deathbed ramblings. Of the dozens who entered those canyons in 1892, only half returned, and those who did spoke in hushed tones of voices echoing from empty arroyos, of shadows moving against the natural flow of sunlight, and of an overwhelming sense of being watched by unseen eyes. The Apache people, whose ancestors had considered these mountains sacred long before the first Europeans set foot in Arizona, offered warnings that fell upon deaf ears. Tribal elders spoke of mountain spirits, powerful guardians who had been tasked with protecting not just the gold hidden within the peaks, but the spiritual sanctity of burial grounds and ceremonial sites scattered throughout the range. According to Apache tradition, the gold itself was never meant for human hands. It was the blood of the earth spirits, and those who sought to steal it would face consequences that extended far beyond the physical realm. These warnings proved prophetic as documented cases began to accumulate of prospectors who entered the mountain and emerged forever changed, if they emerged at all. In 1896, two experienced miners named Jacob Weiser and Jacob Stanton were found decapitated near what they believed to be the entrance to Waltz's mine. Their camp showed no signs of struggle. Their equipment remained untouched, and their bodies bore wounds that local physicians described as surgically precise, made by no tool they could identify. The psychological toll on survivors proved equally disturbing. Jeremiah Foster, a surveyor who spent 3 weeks in the Superstitions in 1903, returned to Tucson speaking in fragments about voices in the stone and golden eyes watching from the shadows. His detailed field notes, once models of scientific precision, devolved into rambling accounts of conversations with entities he could never quite see clearly. Foster spent his remaining years in an asylum, drawing obsessive maps of tunnel systems that geologists insisted could not exist within the mountain's volcanic structure. As the 20th century progressed, the death toll continued to mount with disturbing regularity. Between 1900 and 1950, over 40 treasure hunters lost their lives in the Superstitions, many under circumstances that defied logical explanation. Bodies were found in impossible locations. Inside sealed caves with no visible entrance, at the bottom of crevasses too narrow for human passage, or positioned in ritualistic arrangements that suggested knowledge of Apache burial practices unknown to the victims. Modern investigations have yielded no rational explanations for the mountain's deadly reputation. Geological surveys reveal no unusual magnetic fields, no toxic gas emissions, no unstable rock formations that might account for the high mortality rate. Psychologists studying the phenomenon have noted the recurring theme of obsession among treasure seekers, a fixation that goes beyond normal greed and borders on supernatural compulsion. Dr. Sarah Martinez, who interviewed survivors in the 1980s, observed that subjects display symptoms consistent with possession states, as if some external force has taken residence in their consciousness and redirected their life purpose toward a single, all-consuming goal. The Apache interpretation of these events centers on the concept of spiritual trespass, the violation of sacred boundaries that were established not by human law, but by forces that predate human civilization in the region. Tribal historians maintain that the Superstition Mountains serve as a gateway between the physical and spiritual worlds, and that the gold within them acts as a kind of spiritual magnet, drawing both treasure seekers and the entities charged with protecting the mountain's secrets. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the Lost Dutchman legend lies not in the deaths it has caused, but in the transformation it works upon those who become obsessed with solving its mystery. Families report losing loved ones, not to the mountain's physical dangers, but to the psychological metamorphosis that occurs when someone becomes convinced they can succeed where hundreds have failed. The mountain's curse may not be supernatural at all, but rather the very human tendency to sacrifice everything. The gold of superstition. Mountain remains hidden, if it exists at all, protected by guardians whose nature continues to elude understanding. Whether these protectors are Apache spirits, psychological projections of guilt and fear, or something else entirely, their message remains clear. Some treasures carry prices that exceed their value, and some mysteries are meant to remain forever unsolved, while mountains guard their golden secrets. The open plains harbor mysteries of an entirely different nature. Every autumn equinox, as the sun sets behind the wind-swept expanse of Thunder Mesa in northeastern Wyoming, the sky above this remote plateau transforms into a theater of inexplicable phenomena. For over 2 centuries, witnesses have reported luminous orbs dancing across the darkening heavens, lights that move with purpose and intelligence, defying both the laws of physics and the boundaries of human understanding. These ethereal manifestations have become known as the traveling lights. The phenomenon was first documented by Lewis and Clark expedition member Private Joseph Whitehouse in 1806, whose journal entry from September 22nd describes spheres of pale fire, no larger than a man's head, moving in formation across the mesa like sentinels on patrol. Whitehouse noted that the lights appeared to respond to the expedition's presence, clustering above their camp before dispersing in what he described as a pattern too deliberate to be natural, too graceful to be earthly. The Cheyenne people, whose ancestors had witnessed these lights for generations, possessed a far more profound understanding of their significance. According to tribal elder Morning Star Woman, interviewed by ethnographer James Mooney in 1892, the lights were manifestations of the Star People benevolent spirits who traveled between worlds during the equinox to guide souls through the transition from life to death. When the light beings dance above Thunder Mesa, she explained, the pathway between earth and sky opens, and those who have finished their earthly journey can find their way to the spirit realm. This interpretation gained tragic credence during the harsh winter of 1847, when a wagon train led by Captain Samuel Morrison became lost in an early blizzard near the mesa. According to survivor testimony, the traveling lights appeared on the night of September 21st, forming a luminous path that led the desperate pioneers to a sheltered canyon where they found fresh water and sufficient game to survive until spring. Morrison's own account, preserved in the Nebraska State Historical Society, describes the lights as angels of deliverance, moving with such purpose and compassion that no man among us doubted their divine origin. Yet not all encounters with the traveling lights have ended in salvation. The autumn of 1883 brought reports of a different nature. When homesteader Thomas Brennan followed the lights away from his family's claim, convinced they were leading him to water during a severe drought. Brennan's wife, Margaret, watched from their cabin as her husband walked into the darkness, following the bobbing orbs until both he and the lights vanished over the mesa's rim. Search parties found Brennan 3 days later, 20 miles from any known trail, sitting cross-legged atop a rocky outcropping with no memory of how he had arrived there. He spoke only of walking among the stars, and died peacefully in his sleep that same night, his face bearing an expression of profound serenity. Early settlers developed a complex relationship with the lights, viewing them simultaneously as harbingers of hope and omens of supernatural danger. The town of Mesa Springs, established in 1879 at the plateau's base, instituted an annual tradition of posting watchers during the equinox. Volunteers who would observe the lights' behavior and issue warnings if their movement patterns suggested approaching danger. Town records indicate that years when the lights remained stationary or moved in erratic patterns often preceded harsh winters, failed crops, or outbreaks of disease. As the 20th century dawned, scientific interest in the Thunder Mesa phenomenon grew alongside the emerging field of atmospheric physics. In 1924, Dr. Size Harrison Webb of the University of Colorado led the first formal investigation, deploying weather balloons and early photographic equipment in an attempt to capture evidence of the light's physical properties. Webb's photographs, while grainy and inconclusive, showed clearly defined spherical objects moving in coordinated patterns that defied explanation by known meteorological phenomena. The rise of UFO consciousness in the post-World War II era brought new interpretations to the Thunder Mesa mystery. Ufologists, like Dr. J. Allen Hynek, theorized that the lights represented reconnaissance activities by extraterrestrial intelligence, pointing to their organized movement patterns and apparent ability to interact with human observers. This theory gained support in 1967, when radar installations at nearby Warren Air Force Base detected unidentified objects above Thunder Mesa on the night of the autumn equinox, moving at speeds and executing maneuvers impossible for conventional aircraft. Modern investigations have employed increasingly sophisticated technology to study the phenomenon. Yet the lights continue to resist scientific explanation. Electromagnetic field detectors register significant anomalies during appearances, while spectrographic analysis reveals light frequencies that correspond to no known elements. Most puzzling of all, the lights appear selectively visible to some observers, while remaining completely invisible to others standing mere feet away. Dr. Eleanor Vargas, a quantum physicist who has studied the Thunder Mesa lights since 1995, proposes that the phenomenon may represent a convergence of multiple explanatory frameworks. We may be witnessing something that exists simultaneously in the realms of atmospheric physics, consciousness studies, and quantum mechanics, she suggests. The lights could be manifestations of ball lightning influenced by the mesa's unique geological properties. The Cheyenne perspective on these modern theories remains unchanged. Current tribal spokesman Robert Standing Bear maintains that scientific instruments cannot measure spiritual phenomena, and that the lights will continue to appear as long as there are souls in need of guidance between worlds. Your machines look for answers in the wrong places. The star people don't follow your physics. They follow the ancient laws of compassion and spiritual necessity. As autumn approaches each year, Thunder Mesa continues to draw witnesses from across the globe, each seeking their own understanding of the mysterious lights that dance between earth and sky. Whether viewed as atmospheric anomalies, extraterrestrial visitations, or spiritual manifestations, the traveling lights remind us that some phenomena transcend the boundaries of any single explanatory system, existing in the liminal space where science, spirituality, and mystery converge. As lights traverse the heavens, other mysteries emerge from the depths of the earth itself. In the shadow of the Black Hills, where the gold rush town of Deadwood once echoed with the chaos of fortune seekers and outlaws, lies a geological anomaly that has confounded engineers and philosophers for over a century and a half. The bottomless well of Deadwood Gulch appears unremarkable at first glance. A circular stone opening roughly 4 feet in diameter, lined with weathered granite blocks that suggest human construction from the territorial period. Yet this seemingly ordinary well has resisted every attempt at measurement, swallowed countless lengths of rope and chain, and produced acoustic phenomena that challenge our understanding of physics itself. The well's discovery is attributed to prospector Magnus Holbrook in 1876, during the height of Deadwood's gold fever. Holbrook's journal, preserved in the South Dakota State Archives, describes his initial encounter with characteristic frontier pragmatism. Found what appears to be a well left by earlier settlers, though none I've spoken with recall its construction. Dropped my longest rope, 200 feet of good hemp, and heard no splash, no strike of stone. The rope simply disappeared into darkness, as if the earth had opened its mouth to swallow my tackle whole. Intrigued rather than deterred, Holbrook enlisted the help of fellow miners to conduct more systematic measurements. Using every rope, chain, and cable available in Deadwood's commercial district, the impromptu expedition lowered over 800 feet of material into the well's depths. Not only did they fail to reach bottom, but the ropes and chains vanished entirely, cut cleanly at the well's rim by some unknown mechanism that left no trace of friction or sawing. Word of the anomalous well spread quickly through the mining camps, attracting the attention of territorial surveyor Colonel James Patterson, whose 1877 official report to the Dakota Territory government provides the first scientific analysis of the phenomenon. Patterson's team employed surveying equipment and techniques typically used for measuring mine shafts, lowering weighted lines while simultaneously mapping the well's apparent trajectory through mathematical triangulation. Their findings defied geological possibility. The well appeared to descend vertically for approximately 200 feet before curving at impossible angles, suggesting a path that would intersect with known underground formations, yet somehow avoided all contact with groundwater, rock strata, or mineral deposits. The acoustic properties of the well proved equally baffling. Sounds dropped into its depths. Stones, metal objects, even shouted words, produced no echo, as if the well absorbed sound itself. However, during thunderstorms, the situation reversed dramatically. Witnesses reported hearing voices rising from the depths, speaking in languages that ranged from familiar English and Spanish to dialects that linguists could not identify. These voices never responded to attempts at communication from above, instead carrying on conversations among themselves that seemed to echo from vast distances beneath the earth. Dr. Margaret Saunders, a geologist from the University of Minnesota who studied the well in 1895, documented the most disturbing acoustic phenomenon in her research notes. The voices discussed mining claims, water rights, and territorial disputes using terminology and references consistent with the 1870s period. Most unsettling was our realization that one of the speakers bore remarkable vocal similarity to Magnus Holbrook, the well's discoverer, who died of consumption in Denver 3 years prior. Scientific expeditions throughout the early 20th century brought increasingly sophisticated equipment to bear on the mystery, yet each investigation raised more questions than it answered. In 1923, the USS Geological Survey lowered a telephone line into the well, hoping to establish communication with whatever lay at its presumed bottom. The line descended smoothly for exactly 1,847 feet before going slack, suggesting it had reached some kind of terminus. However, when operators attempted to retrieve the equipment, they discovered that the line had been severed precisely at the 1,847 foot mark, with the cut displaying characteristics that metallurgists described as impossible without industrial diamond cutting tools operated under controlled conditions. The well's reputation for swallowing equipment became legendary among researchers. By 1935, scientific expeditions had lost over $50,000 worth of surveying instruments, cameras, and recording devices to the well's depths. More troubling still, several investigations reported equipment malfunctions that occurred only in the well's immediate vicinity. Compass needles spun wildly. Barometric pressure readings fluctuated without corresponding weather changes, and sensitive electromagnetic instruments registered field disturbances that corresponded to no known geological phenomena. Modern attempts to solve the mystery have employed ground-penetrating radar, seismic imaging, and even experimental drone technology. Results have been uniformly inconclusive, with imaging equipment producing data that geologists describe as internally contradictory and physically impossible. The well appears simultaneously to extend infinitely downward and to terminate at various depths depending on the measurement method employed. Dr. Michael Torres, a quantum geologist who has studied the well since 1998, proposes that the anomaly may represent a naturally occurring dimensional interface, a point where conventional three-dimensional space intersects with mathematical dimensions beyond human perception. The well may not extend infinitely downward in our dimensional framework, Torres suggests, but rather serve as an access point to spatial configurations that our physics cannot adequately describe. Local Lakota traditions offer alternative explanations rooted in spiritual rather than scientific understanding. Tribal elder Joseph White Elk maintains that the well serves as a pathway for spirits traveling between the world of the living and the realm of ancestors. The earth has doorways, he explains, places where the barriers between worlds grow thin. Your instruments cannot measure what exists beyond measurement. Cannot find the bottom of something that leads not down, but elsewhere. The psychological impact on investigators has become a subject of study in itself. Long-term exposure to the well appears to produce a form of existential vertigo that researchers have termed abyss anxiety, a persistent fear that solid ground itself may be illusory. Several scientists have reported recurring dreams of falling through endless darkness, while others describe an overwhelming compulsion to lower themselves into the well's depths. As technology advances and our understanding of physics expands, the bottomless well of Deadwood Gulch continues to resist explanation, serving as a humbling reminder that the earth beneath our feet may harbor mysteries that transcend the boundaries of human comprehension. Perhaps some depths are not meant to be measured, and some questions lead not to answers, but to the recognition that reality itself may be far stranger than we dare imagine. While some mysteries plunge into unfathomable depths, others rise like smoke from forgotten ceremonies within the red sandstone walls of Painted Canyon, where ancient artists once carved their visions into living rock. Flames dance without fuel in a display that bridges the gap between natural phenomena and spiritual mystery. For over 8 centuries, these inexplicable fires have ignited spontaneously among the petroglyphs that adorn the canyon's surfaces, creating a light show that transforms archaeological treasures into something approaching the divine. The fires burn without consuming, illuminate without heat, and appear to respond to celestial events with an intelligence that challenges every scientific explanation offered for their existence. The first recorded European observation of the fires comes from Spanish explorer Francisco Hernández in 1692, whose expedition journal describes flames of blue and gold that spring from the painted stones as if the very spirits of the ancient ones had awakened to greet the dawn. Hernández noted that the fires appeared most frequently at sunrise and sunset, concentrating around petroglyphs that depicted spiral patterns, solar symbols, and humanoid figures with radiating appendages that his expedition's priest interpreted as representations of divine beings. The Hopi people, whose ancestors created many of the canyon's rock art panels, possess oral traditions that speak of the fires as manifestations of Masawu, the guardian spirit of the earth and keeper of the sacred flames. According to Hopi prophecy keeper Thomas Banyasia, interviewed in 1987, the spontaneous combustion events signal the awakening of stone spirits that have slumbered within the rock for generations. When the fires dance among the ancient drawings, Banyasia explained, the spirits are trying to communicate messages that our people have been waiting centuries to receive. The stones remember everything, every ceremony, every prayer, every sacred song, and now they are beginning to speak. Early Anglo settlers in the region regarded the fires with a mixture of fear and fascination. Mormon pioneer Eliza Fairchild, whose family established a ranch near the canyon in 1881, documented dozens of fire events in her meticulous diary entries. Fairchild observed that the fires appeared to follow seasonal patterns, reaching peak intensity during the summer and winter solstices, and noted their apparent correlation with phases of the moon. Most intriguingly, she recorded that the fires seemed to respond to human presence, often intensifying when observers approached specific petroglyph panels. The first scientific investigation of the phenomenon occurred in 1924, when Dr. Charles Whitman of the Smithsonian Institution's Bureau of American Ethnology spent 3 months documenting fire events using early photographic equipment and primitive spectrographic analysis. Whitman's research, published in the American Journal of Science, provided the first detailed measurements of the fire's physical properties. He discovered that the flames produced no measurable heat, consumed no oxygen, and emitted light frequencies that corresponded to no known combustion processes. Most puzzling of all, the fires appeared to burn in complete defiance of wind patterns, maintaining perfect vertical orientation even during severe desert storms. As the 20th century progressed, increasingly sophisticated scientific equipment was brought to bear on the mystery. In 1967, a joint expedition from the University of Arizona and Los Alamos National Laboratory installed permanent monitoring stations throughout the canyon, equipped with electromagnetic field detectors, radiation sensors, and high-speed cameras capable of capturing the fire's ignition sequences. The data collected over subsequent decades revealed that fire events were preceded by measurable spikes in electromagnetic activity, suggesting some form of energy accumulation within the sandstone itself. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a plasma physicist who has studied the fires since 1985, proposes that the phenomenon may result from unique interactions between the canyon's mineral composition and atmospheric electrical charges. The sandstone contains high concentrations of quartz and iron oxide, Vasquez explains, creating a natural piezoelectric system that could theoretically generate plasma discharges under specific atmospheric conditions. However, this fails to explain why the discharges occur only in proximity to petroglyphs, or why they appear to exhibit purposeful behavior. The fire's apparent intelligence has become a subject of intense debate among researchers. Documented cases include fires that have written messages by igniting in sequential patterns across petroglyph panels, creating readable symbols that correspond to ancient Hopi pictographic systems. In 1993, anthropologist Dr. Sarah Yellowbird recorded an event where fires illuminated a series of petroglyphs in precise chronological order, apparently depicting the seasonal migration patterns of elk herds with accuracy that was later confirmed by wildlife biologists. Modern electromagnetic studies have revealed that the canyon's rock art panels sit atop a complex network of underground quartz veins. This formation may act as a massive piezoelectric generator, accumulating and releasing electrical energy in response to seismic activity, atmospheric pressure changes, and potentially even gravitational influences from celestial bodies. However, the specificity of the phenomenon, why it occurs only at petroglyph sites and appears to follow patterns meaningful to human observers, remains unexplained by purely geological models. The intersection of ancient wisdom and modern mystery reaches its most profound expression in the canyon's role as a pilgrimage site for contemporary Native American spiritual practitioners. Hopi fire keeper Robert Sekakaku, who has conducted ceremonies in the canyon for over 30 years, maintains that the fires represent a form of communication between the living and the ancestral spirits embedded within the rock art. The old ones knew how to speak with stone, Sekakaku observes. They carved their prayers into the canyon walls, And now those prayers are awakening, sending messages to guide us through the changes coming to our world. Recent quantum physics research has offered intriguing parallels to indigenous interpretations of the phenomenon. Dr. James Harrison, whose work on consciousness and quantum field theory has gained international recognition, suggests that the fires may represent a form of morphic resonance, a theoretical process by which information patterns become embedded in the quantum structure of matter and can be triggered by appropriate stimuli. If consciousness can influence quantum systems, Harrison proposes, then the intense spiritual focus of ceremony and prayer over centuries could theoretically embed information patterns within the canyon's crystalline matrix, creating a kind of geological memory that manifests as these spontaneous combustion events. The sacred fires of Painted Canyon continue to burn in defiance of scientific explanation, serving as a bridge between the analytical and the mystical, the ancient and the contemporary. Whether viewed as plasma physics phenomena, spiritual manifestations, or something that transcends both categories entirely, these flames remind us that some mysteries exist at the intersection of multiple realities, illuminating truths that can only be perceived when we abandon the assumption that any single explanatory framework can contain the full depth of cosmic mystery. As ancient fires burn without fuel, time itself seems to bend in places where past and present converge. Along the windswept heights of Copper Ridge in Montana's Glacier National Park, where ancient mining operations once carved their ambitions into living stone, visitors report experiences that challenge our most fundamental assumptions about the nature of time itself. Here, in a landscape scarred by decades of extraction and abandonment, the linear progression of moments appears to fracture and fold, creating temporal anomalies where past and present coexist in impossible harmony. The phenomenon, known locally as time slips, has transformed Copper Ridge into one of America's most documented sites of chronological displacement. The first recorded incident occurred in 1952, when Park Ranger Daniel Morrison was conducting a routine survey of abandoned mining equipment along the ridge's eastern slope. Morrison's official report, filed with the National Park Service 3 days after the incident, describes an experience that would establish the pattern for hundreds of subsequent cases. At approximately 2003 p.m., while photographing a collapsed mine shaft, I became aware of sounds inconsistent with the location: machinery operating, men shouting, the distinctive whistle of a steam engine. Upon investigation, I discovered an active mining operation in full swing, complete with workers, equipment, and structures that had been demolished in 1934, according to park records. Morrison's encounter lasted exactly 17 minutes by his wristwatch, during which he observed miners extracting copper ore using techniques and equipment consistent with 1920s operations. The workers appeared unaware of his presence, continuing their labors as if he were invisible. When Morrison attempted to photograph the scene, his camera malfunctioned, producing only images of the abandoned landscape he knew to be the ridge's current state. Most disturbing of all, when Morrison checked his watch again, he discovered that despite experiencing 17 minutes of activity, only 3 minutes had elapsed according to the timepiece. A discrepancy that would become a hallmark of time-slip events. The abandoned mining camp of Copper Ridge itself plays a central role in many temporal displacement reports. The settlement, which operated from 1898 to 1934, was demolished when the National Park Service assumed jurisdiction over the area, leaving only foundation stones and rusted equipment as evidence of its existence. Yet dozens of visitors have reported encountering the camp in various stages of its operational history, from the bustling boom years of the early 1900s to the desperate final months when falling copper prices forced its closure. Dr. Margaret Chen, a temporal physicist from Stanford University who has studied the Copper Ridge phenomenon since 1987, has documented over 200 verified time-slip cases through careful interview processes and corroborating evidence. Her research reveals consistent patterns that challenge conventional understanding of temporal mechanics, Witnesses frequently report experiencing extended periods within the temporal anomaly while minimal time passes in the present moment, suggesting that the slips operate according to different chronological rules than normal space-time. The most comprehensive case in Chen's files involves the Peterson family expedition of 1994. Jim and Sandra Peterson, along with their 2 teenage children, were hiking the ridge's northern trail when they encountered what appeared to be a fully operational mining town. The family spent what they estimated to be 4 hours exploring the settlement, interacting with residents who spoke about current events from 1923, purchasing supplies with modern currency that the merchants accepted without question, and even sharing a meal at the town's boarding house. When the family finally left the settlement and returned to their campsite, they discovered that according to their camping companions and park officials, they had been missing for only 45 minutes. Physical evidence of time slip events has proven elusive, yet tantalizing. Witnesses frequently report bringing objects back from their temporal experiences. Tools, photographs, documents, only to discover that these items vanish or transform back into their present-day equivalents within hours of the encounter. The Peterson family's case included a brass mining lamp purchased from the 1923 settlement, which functioned perfectly during their experience, but was found to be a corroded, inoperable antique when examined the following morning. Geological surveys of Copper Ridge have revealed unusual mineral concentrations that may contribute to the temporal anomalies. The area sits atop a complex network of copper-bearing quartz veins with exceptionally high electromagnetic conductivity. Dr. World. Robert Steinberg, a quantum geologist who has collaborated with Chen's research, theorizes that the combination of metallic mineral deposits and the area's unique topographical configuration may create natural conditions conducive to temporal distortion. Copper is an excellent conductor of electrical energy, Steinberg explains, and the ridge's elevation exposes it to frequent lightning strikes that could theoretically charge the underground mineral matrix with enormous amounts of electrical potential. If Einstein's theories about the relationship between energy and space-time are correct, then concentrations of electromagnetic energy on this scale might create localized distortions in the temporal field. The psychological impact on time-slip witnesses has become a subject of study in itself. Many report persistent disorientation following their experiences, describing difficulty distinguishing between memories of past and present events. Some develop what psychologists term temporal displacement syndrome, a condition characterized by vivid dreams of historical periods they never lived through, and an overwhelming sense that their real life exists in a different time period entirely. Native American perspectives on the Copper Ridge phenomena offer alternative interpretations rooted in cyclical rather than linear concepts of time. Blackfoot elder Joseph Running Wolf maintains that the mining operations violated sacred temporal boundaries, creating wounds in time that allow different periods to intersect. Time is not a river flowing in one direction, Running Wolf explains. It is a great circle, and in some places the circle has been broken. The miners dug too deep and disturbed the places where time touches itself. Recent developments in quantum physics have provided new frameworks for understanding temporal anomalies. The concept of closed time-like curves, theoretical pathways through space-time that loop back to their own starting points, offers a mathematical model for how past and present might coexist in the same location. Dr. Chen's latest research explores whether the mineral composition and electromagnetic properties of Copper Ridge might create natural conditions analogous to these theoretical constructs. The phenomenon has attracted international attention from physicists studying the relationship between consciousness and temporal perception. Some researchers theorize that time slips may represent interactions between observer consciousness and quantum-level temporal fluctuations, suggesting that human awareness itself plays a role in determining when and how these anomalies manifest. Perhaps most intriguingly, several witnesses report experiencing the same historical moments repeatedly during different visits to the ridge, as if certain temporal sequences have become trapped in endless loops. These recurring scenarios always involve the final days of the mining operation, suggesting that emotionally charged moments may be more likely to create lasting impressions in the temporal field. As scientific understanding of time and consciousness continues to evolve, Copper Ridge remains a tangible reminder that our perception of temporal reality may be far more fluid than we imagine. The ridge's time slips challenge us to consider whether the past truly disappears or simply becomes invisible to our normal modes of perception, waiting to be rediscovered by those who venture into the places where time itself has been wounded and healed into new configurations. While time bends around certain places, other mysteries manifest through the very animals that roam the wilderness. In the vast grasslands of Wyoming's Medicine Bow National Forest, where the wind carries whispers of ancient prophecies across endless expanses of sage and buffalo grass, a legendary creature appears at the crossroads of history and destiny, the white buffalo of Medicine Bow, a massive albino bison whose presence has been documented for over 2 centuries, emerges from the wilderness only during moments of profound historical significance, serving as both herald and witness to the turning points that reshape the American West. This sacred animal, revered by Native American tribes as a living embodiment of divine prophecy, continues to manifest at precisely those moments when the course of human events hangs in the balance. The first documented sighting by European settlers occurred on June 15, 1876, just 10 days before the Battle of the Little Bighorn. Army Scout William Cody, later known as Buffalo Bill, reported encountering a buffalo of pure white, standing alone on a ridge overlooking the Medicine Bow River, as if keeping vigil over events yet to unfold. Cody's account, preserved in his personal correspondence to his wife Louisa, describes the animal as significantly larger than ordinary bison, with eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages and the sorrow of prophecies fulfilled. When Cody attempted to approach for a closer look, the white buffalo vanished into a morning mist that had not been present moments before. The Lakota people possessed far deeper understanding of the white buffalo's significance, rooted in the sacred legend of White Buffalo Calf Woman, who brought the Chanupa sacred pipe to their ancestors and promised to return in times of great need. According to Lakota tradition, the appearance of a white buffalo signals the beginning of a new age, a time when the sacred hoop of life will be mended and balance restored to a world thrown into chaos by human actions. Chief Red Cloud, in testimony given to Indian agent John McGillicuddy in 1881, spoke of the white buffalo's appearance before every major treaty negotiation, military engagement, and tribal displacement. "The White One comes to witness," Red Cloud explained. "She sees what we do to the sacred earth, what we do to each other. Her presence means the spirits are watching, and that great changes walk among the people like storms across the prairie." Historical records reveal a striking pattern of white buffalo sightings preceding significant events in Western expansion. The animal was observed by members of the Lewis and Clark expedition 3 days before their crucial negotiations with Shoshone Chief Sacagawea's brother, Kamiawait. Wagon train leader Marcus Whitman reported seeing the white buffalo on the eve of establishing the Oregon Trail's most dangerous river crossing. Railroad surveyor Grenville Dodge documented an encounter with the creature just before discovering the mountain pass that would determine the route of the Transcontinental Railroad through Wyoming. The phenomenon gained renewed attention during the Indian Wars of the 1870s and 1880s, when military officers began noting correlations between white buffalo sightings and subsequent battlefield outcomes. Lieutenant Colonel George Custer's orderly reported that Custer himself had observed a white buffalo on the morning of June 24, 1876, one day before the Battle of the Little Bighorn. Similarly, General Nelson Miles documented seeing the animal before the surrender of Chief Joseph and the Nez Perce in 1877, writing in his memoirs that the buffalo stood motionless on the battlefield, as if bearing witness to the end of an era. Modern ranchers and wildlife biologists continue to report encounters with what appears to be the same white buffalo, despite the biological impossibility of a single animal surviving for over 2 centuries. Jake Morrison, whose family has operated cattle ranches in the Medicine Bow region since 1889, maintains detailed records of white buffalo sightings that correspond with major regional events, severe weather disasters, economic upheavals, political transitions, and significant changes in land use policies. Dr. Sarah Whitehorse, a wildlife geneticist who has studied albinism in bison populations since 1995, acknowledges that while white buffalo calves are born occasionally, they typically survive only briefly due to their increased vulnerability to predation and environmental stress. The statistical probability of a white buffalo surviving to maturity in the wild is extraordinarily low, Whitehorse explains. The probability of the same animal surviving for decades, let alone centuries, is essentially zero according to conventional biological understanding. Yet, photographic evidence dating back to the 1890s shows remarkable consistency in the white buffalo's appearance across different time periods. The animal displays the same distinctive markings, body proportions, and behavioral characteristics in images separated by decades, suggesting either an impossibly long-lived individual or a succession of genetically identical animals appearing in the same location. The spiritual significance of the white buffalo extends far beyond Lakota tradition, encompassing prophecies from multiple Plains tribes. Cheyenne elder John Stands in Timber, interviewed in 1967, described the white buffalo as a messenger whose appearances mark the moments when the sacred and ordinary worlds touch each other, when the actions of humans echo in the spirit realm and demand response from the powers that maintain cosmic balance. These prophecies took on renewed urgency in 1994 with the birth of Miracle, a white buffalo calf born on a Wisconsin farm under circumstances that traditional keepers interpreted as fulfillment of ancient predictions about the return of white buffalo calf woman. The birth sparked a renaissance of interest in white buffalo prophecies and their connection to environmental and social healing. Contemporary sightings of the Medicine Bow white buffalo continue to coincide with significant events. The animal was reportedly observed by park rangers on September 10, 2001, standing vigil on the same ridge where Buffalo Bill first encountered it. Rancher testimonies placed the white buffalo at the site of major environmental incidents, including the 2008 natural gas blowout that contaminated local groundwater, and the 2016 pipeline protests that brought national attention to indigenous rights issues. Dr. Michael Crowfeather, a Lakota scholar who studies the intersection of prophecy and historical events, maintains that the white buffalo's appearances represent more than coincidence or wishful thinking. The white buffalo embodies the concept of Wakan, sacred power that flows through all things, Crowfeather explains. Her presence indicates moments when this power is most active, when the possibility for profound change exists. She doesn't cause these events. She recognizes them, witnesses them, and calls attention to their spiritual significance. Modern quantum physics offers intriguing parallels to indigenous interpretations of the white buffalo phenomenon. The concept of quantum entanglement suggests that events separated by vast distances can influence each other instantaneously, while theories about consciousness and observation propose that awareness itself may play a role in determining physical reality. Could the white buffalo represent a form of biological quantum entanglement with the collective unconscious, appearing when human awareness reaches critical thresholds of historical significance? Whether understood as a singular miraculous creature, a manifestation of collective prophecy, or something that transcends both explanations entirely, the white buffalo serves as a reminder that some phenomena exist at the intersection of the physical and metaphysical realms, calling us to recognize the sacred dimensions of historical change. Sacred animals carry messages from the spirit world, while the land itself bears scars from encounters with the unknown. In the desolate expanse of Montana's eastern plains, where the wind carries secrets across endless prairies, lies a phenomenon that has puzzled scientists, historians, and locals for over a century and a half. Near the meandering banks of Bitter Creek, a perfectly circular patch of earth spans exactly 247 feet in diameter, a barren scar upon the landscape where nothing has grown since 1871. The circle's edges are so precisely defined that they appear drawn with an enormous compass. Prairie grass grows thick and healthy right up to an invisible boundary, then abruptly stops, leaving behind soil that looks perpetually scorched. Despite decades of rain, snow, no seed has ever taken root within this cursed ground. No weed has ever pushed through its hardened surface. Local rancher Thomas Whitehorse first documented the anomaly in his journal entry dated September 15, 1871. A light brighter than 1,000 suns erupted from the earth near Bitter Creek last evening. The explosion shook our cabin 20 miles distant, rattling windows and terrifying the livestock. When we investigated at dawn, we found the perfect circle of death that remains to this day. Similar accounts from other settlers describe a pillar of white-hot energy shooting skyward, visible from distances exceeding 50 miles. Mrs. Sarah McKenna, writing to her sister in Boston, described a column of fire reaching toward heaven itself, as if the very gates of the underworld had opened beneath the prairie. The phenomenon reportedly lasted only minutes, but its effects have proven permanent. Modern scientific analysis has deepened the mystery rather than solved it. Soil samples reveal microscopic crystalline structures that don't match any known geological formation. The crystals are perfectly symmetrical, arranged in hexagonal patterns that suggest artificial creation rather than natural processes. Geologist Dr. Elena Vasquez of the University of Montana spent 3 years studying the site, concluding that the molecular structure of the soil within the circle has been fundamentally altered at the atomic level by exposure to temperatures and pressures that shouldn't exist naturally on Earth's surface. Perhaps more disturbing are the radiation readings. While not dangerous to humans, the soil emits a consistent, low-level electromagnetic signature that varies with lunar cycles and solar activity. The radiation doesn't match any known isotopes, leading some researchers to theorize about exposure to exotic matter or energy sources beyond current scientific understanding. The local Crow Nation has preserved oral histories that may predate the 1871 event by generations. Elder Joseph runs. With wind-shared stories passed down through his family, our ancestors spoke of sky beings who descended in chariots of fire to this place. They came to gather something from the earth, something precious that belonged to the star people. When they departed, they left their mark as a warning to those who would disturb sacred ground. These stories describe similar, circular burned areas appearing periodically throughout history, always accompanied by visits from luminous beings who emerged from vessels of light. The accounts suggest that the 1871 incident was not unique, but rather the most recent in a series of otherworldly interventions spanning centuries. Archaeological excavations around the circle's perimeter have uncovered unusual artifacts, metallic fragments that resist analysis, stones carved with symbols that predate known Native American writing systems, and tools made from materials that don't exist in nature. Carbon dating of these objects yields impossible results, with some apparently older than the geological formations in which they're found. The circle's effect on electronic devices adds another layer to the mystery. Compasses spin wildly within its boundaries. GPS systems malfunction, and digital cameras produce distorted images filled with unexplained geometric patterns. Visitors report feelings of euphoria, temporal disorientation, and vivid dreams featuring encounters with beings of pure light. Recent satellite imagery has revealed that the Bitter Creek Circle is not alone. Similar formations exist across the American West, forming what appears to be a vast geometric pattern spanning multiple states. If connected by straight lines, these circles create a complex mandala-like design centered on the Four Corners region, suggesting either natural forces operating on a continental scale or intelligence guiding their placement. While some mysteries leave permanent scars upon the earth, others exist only in the fleeting moments between sleep and waking, nestled between the towering peaks of the Bitterroot Mountains. Moonrise Valley harbors one of the American West's most intimate mysteries. For over a century, residents of this isolated Montana community have shared identical dreams, not similar visions, but precisely the same nocturnal experiences, complete with matching details, conversations, and prophetic revelations. The phenomenon first gained documented attention in 1892 when the valley's only schoolteacher, Miss Eleanor Hartwell, began keeping a dream journal at the suggestion of her physician. She had been experiencing vivid nightmares about a devastating flood that would destroy the settlement's main bridge. When she mentioned her recurring dream to neighbors, she discovered that 17 other residents had been having the exact same vision, down to specific dialogue and visual details. 3 weeks later, an unprecedented spring snowmelt caused Moonrise Creek to overflow its banks, washing away the wooden bridge, exactly as foreseen in the shared dreams. The community had time to prepare, moving livestock and supplies to higher ground based on their collective prophetic experience. No lives were lost in what should have been a catastrophic event. Dr. Torr, Margaret Thorne of the Stanford Psychology Department, arrived in Moonrise Valley in 1923 to investigate reports of mass dreaming events. Her 5-year study documented over 200 instances of shared dreams among the valley's 300 residents. The dreams fell into distinct categories: warnings about natural disasters, visions of visitors arriving in the valley, and most remarkably, collective journeys to otherworldly landscapes that participants described with identical precision. The consistency is unprecedented in psychological literature. Thorne wrote in her landmark paper, "Collective Unconscious Manifestations in Isolated Communities. We are witnessing either a form of telepathic communication or access to what Jung might call a localized expression of the collective unconscious. The geographical specificity of the phenomenon suggests environmental factors may be triggering latent psychic abilities. The valley's geological composition provides intriguing clues. Moonrise Valley sits atop a massive quartz crystal formation, part of an ancient meteorite impact crater. The quartz deposits create unique resonance patterns, generating low-frequency vibrations that correspond to theta brainwave patterns associated with deep sleep and dreaming states. Some researchers theorize that these natural vibrations synchronize resident sleep cycles, creating conditions conducive to shared dreaming experiences. Native American perspectives offer additional insight. The Salish people considered Moonrise Valley a sacred dreaming ground long before European settlement. According to tribal historian James Elk Kohler, our ancestors knew this as the place where the dream world touches the waking world. Warriors would come here to receive visions, and medicine people would gather to share wisdom through the dream paths. Traditional Salish belief holds that certain locations serve as intersections between the physical realm and the dream realm. These sacred sites allow experienced dreamers to meet in shared spiritual landscapes, exchanging information and prophetic knowledge through communal visions. The Salish practiced dream-walking ceremonies at Moonrise Valley for generations, viewing shared dreams as natural phenomena in places where spiritual energy concentrates. Modern research has revealed correlations between shared dreaming events and seismic activity. Robert Chen's Geological Survey team discovered that mass dreaming episodes often precede minor earthquakes by 24 to 48 hours. The dreams themselves frequently contain references to the earth speaking, or voices from deep stone, suggesting that residents may be unconsciously detecting preliminary seismic vibrations through their shared dream network. Electroencephalographic studies conducted on Sleeping Valley residents show synchronized brainwave patterns that mirror those found in meditation states. When multiple subjects enter REM sleep simultaneously, their brain activity harmonizes in ways that shouldn't be possible, according to current understanding of individual consciousness. The synchronization appears to facilitate information sharing at unconscious levels. Perhaps most compelling are the prospective dreams, shared visions of future events that consistently prove accurate. Valley residents have collectively foreseen everything from harsh winters and early springs to the arrival of specific strangers and the outcomes of distant political events. The accuracy rate of these prophetic dreams exceeds statistical probability by enormous margins, suggesting access to information through channels beyond normal sensory perception. Children born in Moonrise Valley develop the shared dreaming ability within their first year, indicating that environmental factors rather than genetic predisposition drive the phenomenon. Families who move to the valley begin experiencing shared dreams within 6 months of residence, while those who leave gradually lose the ability over time. The emotional impact on the community has been profound. Shared dreaming has created unprecedented social cohesion, as residents literally share their deepest thoughts and fears through nocturnal experiences. Conflicts are often resolved through dream encounters before they manifest in waking life, and the community has developed an almost telepathic understanding of individual and collective needs. Yet, the phenomenon also raises disturbing questions about individual privacy and autonomous consciousness. Some residents report feeling unable to maintain personal psychological boundaries, experiencing a gradual dissolution of individual identity into the collective dream consciousness. Dreams may reveal hidden truths, but some mysteries hide in plain sight among the remnants of civilization. In the high desert of southern Utah, where red rock formations rise like ancient cathedrals against endless blue sky, sits the small settlement of Harmony Springs, a community that exists outside the tyranny of measured time. Every timepiece that enters this isolated town stops working within hours of arrival, from pocket watches to atomic clocks, creating a unique society that has adapted to life without chronological constraints. The phenomenon was first documented in 1884 when the railroad company attempted to establish a depot at Harmony Springs. Chief Engineer Walter Morrison noted in his official report, "All company timepieces ceased functioning upon our arrival in the settlement. Pocket watches, railway chronometers, and even the station clocks sent ahead by freight train were found completely inoperative, despite showing no physical damage." The town's founder, Jeremiah Hartwell, had arrived 3 years earlier with his family, seeking isolation after a bitter dispute over land rights in Colorado. He discovered the temporal anomaly within days of building his homestead when his prized railroad watch, a wedding gift from his wife, simply stopped ticking. Initially frustrated by the inability to maintain proper schedules, Hartwell gradually embraced what he came to see as liberation from civilization's artificial constraints. By 1890, Harmony Springs had attracted a unique community of individuals seeking escape from the industrial world's relentless pace. The settlement developed its own rhythm based on natural cycles, sunrise and sunset, seasonal changes, and the human body's internal rhythms. Residents woke when rested, ate when hungry, and worked until tasks felt complete, rather than until specific hours elapsed. Dr. Alexandra Mitchell of the Boulder Institute for Temporal Physics spent 18 months studying Harmony Springs in the early 1970s. Her research revealed that the town sits atop a massive underground crystal formation, containing high concentrations of magnetite and piezoelectric quartz. The crystals generate complex electromagnetic fields that interfere with the mechanical and electronic components essential to timekeeping devices. The magnetic anomaly extends roughly 3 miles in diameter, Dr. Mitchell documented. Within this zone, electromagnetic fields pulse in patterns that disrupt the oscillations necessary for accurate time measurement. Quartz crystals, whether in watches or electronic devices, lose their ability to maintain consistent frequencies due to interference from the natural crystal formation below. The underground formation appears to be part of an ancient meteorite impact site, compressed over millions of years into a crystalline matrix that creates what Dr. cries. Mitchell termed a temporal isolation field. The natural electromagnetic pulses don't harm humans, but completely disrupt artificial timing mechanisms. Residents of Harmony Springs have developed remarkable adaptability to clockless existence. The community operates on a consensus-based schedule where activities happen when participants feel ready rather than at predetermined times. Meals are prepared and shared when hunger naturally occurs, creating a flexible social rhythm that prioritizes human needs over arbitrary time divisions. Sarah Whitman, a third-generation resident, describes the experience. You learn to listen to your body and the natural world in ways that people ruled by clocks never can. We eat when we're hungry, sleep when we're tired, and work when we feel energetic. It's amazing how much more peaceful life becomes when you stop fighting against your natural rhythms. The town's unique temporal environment has attracted researchers studying circadian rhythms and biological clocks. Studies show that Harmony Springs residents maintain healthier sleep patterns, experience lower stress levels, and demonstrate improved psychological well-being compared to time-structured populations. Without artificial time pressure, the community has developed a more intuitive approach to productivity and social interaction. Children raised in Harmony Springs show remarkable differences in their relationship with time. They develop strong internal chronometers, accurately estimating durations and maintaining personal schedules without external timing devices. These children often struggle when leaving the community for education or employment in the outside world, finding clock-based society artificially constraining and psychologically stressful. The philosophical implications of Harmony Springs extend beyond mere convenience. The community has rediscovered what anthropologists call natural time, the human experience of duration based on internal biological rhythms rather than mechanical measurements. This temporal freedom has fostered creativity, reduced anxiety, and strengthened social bonds by eliminating the competitive pressure of scheduled productivity. Visitors to Harmony Springs report initial discomfort, followed by profound relaxation as they adjust to clockless existence. Many describe the experience as remembering how to be human. Some extend their stays indefinitely, unable to return to a lifestyle governed by artificial temporal constraints. The town's economic activities reflect its unique temporal culture. Artisans create handcrafted goods without production deadlines. Farmers tend crops based on seasonal needs rather than planting schedules. And the small-scale service economy operates through flexible arrangements that prioritize relationship over efficiency. Recent attempts to introduce digital technology to Harmony Springs have failed spectacularly. Satellite internet connections. Malfunction. Cell phone networks prove unreliable, and GPS systems provide erratic readings within the electromagnetic field. The community remains effectively isolated from the modern world's technological infrastructure, preserving its alternative relationship with time. While some places exist outside of time, others serve as gateways between worlds unknown. Deep within Arizona's painted desert, where wind-carved sandstone formations create a labyrinth of natural architecture, stands one of the American Southwest's most enigmatic structures, an ancient stone archway that serves as a gateway to otherworldly realms. The doorway stones of Echo Canyon have puzzled archaeologists, challenged physicists. The archway measures exactly 14 feet in height and 8 feet in width, constructed from massive red sandstone blocks fitted together without mortar or visible joining techniques. Unlike the surrounding natural formations, the stones show clear evidence of artificial shaping, with surfaces smooth as glass and corners cut at precise right angles. No tool marks remain visible, and the construction technique remains beyond current archaeological understanding. Dr. Benjamin Crawford of the Arizona Archaeological Survey first documented the structure in 1923, noting its anomalous position within the canyon's geological timeline. Stratigraphic analysis suggested that the archway predated known Native American civilizations by thousands of years. Yet, the construction showed technological sophistication that shouldn't have existed in prehistoric North America. The stones themselves are composed of sandstone, consistent with local geological formations. Dr. Ty. Crawford wrote in his field notes, however, the precise cutting and fitting techniques suggest advanced engineering capabilities. Most puzzling is the complete absence of construction debris or tool marks that should accompany such precise stonework. The true mystery of the doorway stones emerged through first-hand accounts from travelers who claimed to have passed through the archway and entered alternate realities. The first documented case occurred in 1934 when prospector Jake Morrison emerged from the canyon after a 3-day absence, claiming to have visited a world where massive crystalline cities stretched across landscapes of purple sand beneath twin suns. Morrison's account was dismissed as heat-induced hallucination until he produced a handful of translucent crystals, unlike any known mineral formation. Geological analysis revealed that the crystals contained isotopic compositions impossible on Earth, with atomic structures that defied conventional chemistry. The samples eventually disappeared from laboratory storage under mysterious circumstances. Subsequent reports followed consistent patterns. Travelers who approached the archway with specific intentions or emotional states would experience sudden transportation to alternate realities. These other worlds ranged from parallel versions of Earth, with different historical outcomes, to completely alien environments populated by non-human intelligences. Physicist Dr. Margaret Chen led a comprehensive study of the doorway stones in 1967, bringing sophisticated measurement equipment to document the anomaly. Her team discovered that the space within the archway exhibited properties that violated known laws of physics. Electromagnetic radiation behaved erratically, sometimes passing through the portal normally, other times disappearing completely or emerging with altered wavelengths. The archway appears to function as a naturally occurring dimensional rift. Dr. Section, Chen concluded in her classified report. The stone structure may serve as a stabilizing framework that maintains the portal's integrity across time. We are dealing with quantum mechanics, principles manifesting on a macroscopic scale through unknown mechanisms. Native American oral traditions offer additional perspective on the doorway stones. Hopi elder Thomas Sekayungtawa shared tribal memories. Our ancestors knew this place as the Sipapu, the emergence place where souls travel between worlds. It was forbidden to most people, reserved for medicine workers who had the strength to walk between realities without losing themselves. According to Hopi cosmology, certain locations serve as permanent gateways between the physical world and spiritual dimensions. These portals require careful approach and proper ceremony to navigate safely. Unauthorized or unprepared passage through dimensional doorways can result in permanent displacement, with travelers becoming lost between worlds. Modern quantum physics research has proposed theoretical frameworks that could explain the doorway stones phenomenon. String theory suggests that multiple dimensions exist parallel to our observable reality, occasionally intersecting at points where the fabric of space-time becomes thin or unstable. Natural geological formations, under specific electromagnetic conditions, might create stable wormholes, allowing passage between dimensional planes. The emotional and psychological preparation of travelers appears crucial to their experience. Those approaching the archway with fear or aggressive intentions report disturbing encounters with hostile realities. Conversely, individuals maintaining peaceful, exploratory mindsets often describe beautiful worlds populated by benevolent beings eager to share advanced knowledge. Dr. Sarah Winters, a consciousness researcher who has extensively interviewed Doorway Stones travelers, notes consistent themes in their accounts. Almost all visitors report encounters with beings who seem to exist outside normal time constraints. These entities often possess knowledge about Earth's history and humanity's potential future that proves remarkably accurate when later verified. The archway's activity appears to follow astronomical cycles, with dimensional rifts opening most frequently during specific lunar phases and planetary alignments. Some researchers theorize that gravitational variations create temporary instabilities in local space-time, allowing the portal's effects to manifest more readily during these celestial events. Recent attempts to establish permanent monitoring stations near the Doorway Stones have failed due to equipment malfunctions and inexplicable technical difficulties. Video cameras produce distorted images. Seismic monitors record impossible vibration patterns. And communication devices lose signal within a 100-yard radius of the archway. The site continues to attract individuals seeking transformative experiences, though the National Park Service officially discourages visitors from approaching the structure. Warning signs describe potential hazards from unstable geological formations, but don't mention the dimensional portal that has transported dozens of people to impossible worlds. Gateways may lead to other dimensions, but some mysteries emerge from the convergence of natural forces. Atop the wind-swept plateau of Storm Mesa in northwestern New Mexico, a forest of stone bears witness to one of nature's most persistent mysteries. Here, dozens of petrified trees, mineralized remains from an ancient ecosystem, continue to attract lightning strikes with supernatural consistency, despite having been transformed to stone over millions of years. The phenomenon has puzzled meteorologists, fascinated physicists, and inspired generations of Native American spiritual leaders. The petrified forest crowns Storm Mesa's flat summit, approximately 8,000 feet above sea level. These fossilized giants, some reaching heights of 60 feet, were once part of a massive coniferous forest that thrived during the Triassic period. Geological processes gradually replaced their organic matter with quartz and other minerals, creating stone sculptures that retain the tree's original cellular structure in crystalline form. What makes Storm Mesa's petrified forest unique is not its geological history, but its ongoing relationship with atmospheric electricity. Even on clear days with minimal weather activity, these stone trees attract lightning strikes at rates that exceed statistical probability by enormous margins. Local weather station data shows that Storm Mesa experiences lightning activity 30 times more frequently than surrounding areas of similar elevation. Meteorologist Dr. James Blackwood began studying the phenomenon in 1963 after witnessing a spectacular electrical display during what appeared to be a mild thunderstorm. "I counted 47 separate lightning strikes in a span of 10 minutes, all hitting the petrified trees," he documented. The storm itself was relatively weak, yet the electrical activity was more intense than anything I'd observed in major thunderstorms elsewhere. Each lightning strike leaves distinctive marks on the stone trees, creating crystalline formations that build upon previous electrical encounters. Over decades or centuries of repeated strikes, these formations have grown into elaborate structures resembling frozen lightning bolts preserved in mineral form. The crystals exhibit fractal patterns that mirror the branching pathways of electrical discharge. Analysis of the crystal formations reveals unusual properties. The stone conducts electricity far more efficiently than typical quartz formations, suggesting that lightning strikes have fundamentally altered the mineral structure at the molecular level. The crystals also emit a faint electromagnetic signature that pulses in rhythm with the Earth's natural electrical field. Her research reveals that the trees function as massive natural lightning rods, but with capabilities that extend far beyond simple electrical attraction. The petrified trees appear to be generating their own electromagnetic fields, Rodriguez explains. The crystalline structures created by previous lightning strikes create a feedback loop that continuously draws electrical activity. Each strike strengthens the system's ability to attract future strikes, creating an ever-intensifying cycle of electromagnetic concentration. The tree's electrical activity affects human consciousness in profound ways. Visitors to Storm Mesa during lightning storms report heightened awareness, enhanced creativity, and temporary telepathic abilities. Some describe receiving clear mental impressions from other individuals present during electrical events, as if the charged atmosphere facilitates direct mind-to-mind communication. Indigenous perspectives provide crucial context for understanding Storm Mesa's significance. Zuni elder Maria Tsosi shares tribal knowledge. "Our ancestors called this place the Speaking Trees because the thunder beings would use them to send messages to the earth. The stone trees are not dead. They have become something greater. Bridges between the sky world and earth world." According to Zuni cosmology, lightning represents communication from powerful spirits who inhabit the sky realm. The petrified trees serve as receivers for these spiritual transmissions, translating celestial messages into forms that earthbound beings can comprehend. The crystalline formations created by lightning strikes are seen as permanent records of divine communications. Traditional ceremonies conducted at Storm Mesa during electrical storms involve careful positioning around specific trees based on their lightning strike patterns. Zuni spiritual leaders interpret the visual and electromagnetic displays as meaningful communications about weather patterns, seasonal changes, and important tribal decisions. Recent research has revealed that Storm Mesa's electromagnetic anomaly extends underground. Ground-penetrating radar shows extensive mineral formations beneath the petrified forest, suggesting that the visible trees are merely the surface expression of a vast electromagnetic concentration system. The underground structures appear to channel and focus electrical energy from wide areas into concentrated surface discharge points. The effects on wildlife add another dimension to the mystery. Storm Mesa supports unusual populations of certain bird species that seem immune to electrical activity. Ravens and hawks nest directly in the lightning-struck trees, apparently unaffected by regular electrical discharges. These birds exhibit unusual behaviors, including complex aerial displays during thunderstorms that mirror the geometric patterns found in the crystal formations. Photographers attempting to capture Storm Mesa's lightning activity have discovered that cameras malfunction in predictable ways. Digital sensors produce images filled with geometric patterns that don't correspond to visible phenomena, while film cameras record multiple exposures simultaneously, as if time itself becomes unstable during electrical events. The Mesa's electrical activity follows mysterious patterns that don't correlate with normal weather systems. Major lightning displays often occur during clear weather, while actual thunderstorms sometimes pass over the area without triggering electrical activity in the petrified trees. The phenomena appears to operate according to cycles that connect to astronomical events and geological processes, rather than meteorological conditions. Scientists have attempted to harness Storm Mesa's electrical concentration for energy generation, but all technological interventions have failed. Equipment either malfunctions due to electromagnetic interference, or seems to disrupt the natural electrical patterns, causing the lightning attraction to cease temporarily. As electricity dances through ancient wood, other mysteries pulse through the veins of living creatures, hidden among the towering pine forests of northern Idaho, where morning mist clings to ancient trees like spirits reluctant to depart, lies a collection of natural hot springs that has defied medical explanation for over a century. The thermal pools of Whispering Pines have witnessed miraculous recoveries from terminal illnesses, spontaneous healing of chronic conditions, and regeneration of damaged tissue that should be impossible according to modern medical science. The springs were first discovered by fur trapper Ezra Whitman in 1847, who stumbled upon the steaming pools while suffering from advanced consumption, tuberculosis that had left him weakened and near death. Desperate and unable to continue his journey, Whitman decided to spend his final days soaking in the warm mineral waters. 3 weeks later, he emerged completely cured, his lungs clear and his strength restored. Word of Whitman's miraculous recovery spread slowly through frontier communities, attracting other desperately ill individuals seeking miraculous cures. By 1870, a small settlement had grown around the springs, supported by visitors who arrived dying and often departed healthy. The community of Whispering Pines became known throughout the territories as a place where the impossible regularly occurred. Dr. Catherine Morrison, a physician from San Francisco, arrived in 1889 to investigate claims of miraculous healings. Initially skeptical, she planned to document and debunk what she assumed were cases of misdiagnosis or natural recovery. Instead, she spent 30 years studying and documenting genuinely inexplicable healings that challenged everything she understood about medicine and human physiology. I have witnessed terminal cancer patients achieve complete remission after weeks of spring immersion, Dr. Morrison wrote in her medical journal. I have observed paralyzed individuals regain full mobility, seen degenerative diseases reverse their progression, and watched damaged organs regenerate functionality. These are not cases of misdiagnosis or spontaneous remission. They represent healing phenomena that transcend current medical understanding. Chemical analysis of the spring water has consistently failed to identify any therapeutic compounds that could explain the miraculous recoveries. The mineral content includes standard geothermal components: sulfur, silica. The water's temperature remains constant at 104 degrees Fahrenheit, optimal for human immersion, but unremarkable from a therapeutic standpoint. Dr. Samuel Chen of the Stanford Medical Research Institute conducted extensive studies at Whispering Pines throughout the 1950s, bringing sophisticated diagnostic equipment to document healing processes in real time. His research revealed that recovery rates far exceeded statistical possibility, with success rates approaching 90% for conditions considered terminal by conventional medicine. The healing mechanism appears to operate at the cellular level, Dr. Chen documented. We observe accelerated tissue regeneration, enhanced immune system function, and restoration of normal cellular metabolism in ways that shouldn't be possible. The spring water seems to trigger healing responses that lie dormant in human physiology. Perhaps most intriguing are the psychological and spiritual transformations that accompany physical healing at Whispering Pines. Patients consistently report profound shifts in consciousness, enhanced emotional well-being, and spiritual experiences that persist long after their physical recovery. Many describe feeling connected to universal healing energy that extends far beyond their individual illness. Native American perspectives offer important insights into the spring's significance. Shoshone elder Robert Bear Walker shares tribal knowledge. Our people have always known this place as the tears of the Earth Mother. The springs flow from her compassionate heart, carrying the power to heal both body and spirit. But the healing comes only to those who approach with proper reverence and genuine need. According to Shoshone tradition, the springs were created by the Earth Mother's tears shed for human suffering. The water carries not just minerals, but concentrated spiritual energy that can restore harmony between physical and spiritual aspects of human existence. Traditional protocols required ceremony and purification before entering the healing waters. The spring's effectiveness appears to correlate with patients' emotional and spiritual states, rather than the severity of their physical conditions. Individuals who approach with desperation, fear, or aggressive determination often experience limited results. Those who enter the waters with acceptance, gratitude, and spiritual openness consistently achieve the most dramatic recoveries. Researchers have noted that the healing environment extends beyond the springs themselves. The surrounding forest exhibits unusual vitality, with trees growing to exceptional sizes and wildlife populations thriving in remarkable abundance. The entire ecosystem seems to pulse with enhanced life energy that visitors can sense even before reaching the thermal pools. Medical professionals who visit Whispering Pines often experience profound shifts in their understanding of healing and human potential. Dr. Rees, Sarah Whitfield, an oncologist from Denver, describes her transformation. Instead, I witnessed cellular regeneration that challenged everything I learned in medical school. The springs revealed healing capabilities that exist within human biology, but remain largely untapped. The site continues to attract terminally ill patients from around the world, though the National Forest Service has imposed restrictions to protect the fragile ecosystem. Visitors must obtain permits and follow strict protocols designed to preserve both the natural environment and the sacred atmosphere that appears essential to the healing process. Recent attempts to commercialize the springs or bottle the water for distribution have consistently failed. The healing properties seem inseparable from the specific location, environmental context, and spiritual atmosphere of Whispering Pines. Scientific efforts to replicate the healing effects in laboratory settings have produced no measurable results. While some waters heal the body, others preserve mysteries that transcend physical existence. In the remote mountain valley of Aspen Hollow, Colorado, where golden leaves create carpets of autumn light, even in the depths of winter, stands a cemetery that defies the natural order of death and decay. Here, bodies interred during the harsh winter of 1883 remain perfectly preserved, showing no signs of decomposition despite nearly a century and a half in the ground. The phenomenon has transformed grief into wonder and challenged fundamental assumptions about mortality itself. The mystery began during the devastating blizzard of February 1883, when a sudden temperature drop killed 17 residents of the small mining community overnight. The frozen ground prevented immediate burial, forcing survivors to store the bodies in a makeshift morgue until spring thaw would allow proper interment. When warmer weather finally arrived in May, the deceased showed no signs of decay despite months of storage. Assuming the cold had naturally preserved the bodies, the community proceeded with burial ceremonies. However, when a mining accident claimed 2 more lives the following summer, cemetery caretaker Thomas McKinnon made a disturbing discovery. While excavating adjacent plots, he accidentally uncovered one of the winter victims and found the body in exactly the same condition as the day of burial. Word of the preserved bodies spread slowly through the isolated mountain communities, attracting scientists, physicians, and curiosity seekers from across the country. Dr. William Hartwell of the Denver Medical College arrived in 1885 to conduct the first systematic examination of the phenomenon, expecting to find evidence of unusual environmental factors or chemical preservation. The bodies show no signs of mummification, desiccation, or any known preservation process. Dr. Hartwell documented in his official report, the tissue remains flexible, the skin retains natural coloration, and cellular structure appears completely intact. We are witnessing a suspension of biological decay that has no precedent in medical literature. Environmental studies of Aspen Hollow have failed to identify factors that could explain the preservation phenomenon. Soil composition, groundwater chemistry, atmospheric conditions, and temperature variations all fall within normal ranges for mountain environments. The cemetery's location shows no unusual geological features that might contribute to natural mummification or preservation processes. Dr. Margaret Chen of the University of Colorado spent 5 years studying the Aspen Hollow Cemetery, conducting extensive analysis of soil samples, atmospheric readings, and electromagnetic measurements. Her research revealed subtle anomalies that suggest environmental factors beyond current scientific understanding. The entire valley exhibits electromagnetic signatures that differ slightly from surrounding areas. Chen reported, "We detect low-level energy fields that pulse in patterns resembling biological rhythms. It's possible that unknown geological formations are generating fields that interfere with normal decomposition processes at the cellular level." The preserved bodies have become a source of both fascination and emotional turmoil for descendants of the deceased. Families struggle with the psychological impact of ancestors who remain visually unchanged by time's passage. Some find comfort in the apparent victory over death's finality, while others experience distress at the unnatural suspension of natural cycles. Sarah Henderson, great-granddaughter of one of the preserved miners, describes the complex emotions. It's heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time. Great-grandfather looks exactly as he did in old photographs, as if he's simply sleeping. Part of me expects him to open his eyes and speak. The preservation feels like a gift and a curse. We can't properly grieve when death doesn't look like death. Native American perspectives offer spiritual context for understanding the phenomenon. Ute elder Joseph Running Bear shares tribal wisdom. Some places are thresholds between the world of the living and the world of spirits. The ancestors in Aspen Hollow remain to teach the living that death is not an ending, but a transformation. Their preservation serves a sacred purpose we may not fully understand. According to Ute cosmology, certain locations function as bridges between physical and spiritual realms. The preserved bodies may be manifestations of souls who have chosen to remain partially connected to the physical world to provide guidance or protection for future generations. Recent scientific investigations have revealed that the preservation extends beyond the human remains to include organic materials buried with the deceased. Wooden coffins show no signs of decay. Fabric clothing remains intact, and even flowers placed on graves decades ago retain their original appearance and color. The phenomenon appears to be geographically specific to a precisely defined area within the cemetery boundaries. Bodies buried just outside the preservation zone decompose normally, while those within the affected area remain indefinitely preserved. The boundary forms an almost perfect circle with a radius of approximately 150 feet centered on the cemetery's original chapel foundation. Attempts to study the preservation mechanism through tissue samples have failed because any material removed from the cemetery immediately begins normal decomposition processes. The preservation effect seems to require the specific environmental conditions present only within Aspen Hollow's unique electromagnetic field. The emotional impact on the living community continues to evolve as generations pass. Some residents have requested burial outside the preservation zone to ensure natural decomposition, while others specifically choose plots within the affected area, hoping to achieve the same mysterious preservation for their own remains. Researchers have documented that the preservation phenomenon affects visitors' perceptions of mortality and spiritual existence. Many report profound spiritual experiences while visiting the cemetery, describing encounters with presence or consciousness that seems to emanate from the preserved remains. The site has attracted religious pilgrims, scientists, and individuals seeking answers about life after death. The Catholic Church has investigated claims of miraculous preservation, while quantum physicists propose theories about consciousness surviving bodily death through electromagnetic field interactions. Photography of the preserved bodies produces unusual results, with images often showing luminous auras or energy fields surrounding the remains. Digital cameras malfunction within the cemetery boundaries, while film cameras produce double exposures or images that seem to capture figures not visible to the naked eye. While death defies its natural course in sacred grounds, life itself takes impossible forms in the deep wilderness. In the pristine wilderness of Montana's Glacier National Park, where ancient peaks pierce the sky like cathedral spires and pristine lakes mirror eternity itself, roams a creature that challenges the boundaries between myth and reality. The phantom elk of Glacier Peak has been witnessed by hundreds of observers over the past century. A massive bull elk whose antler span exceeds biological possibility, and whose very existence defies the laws of nature. The first documented sighting occurred in 1923, when Park Ranger Daniel Whitehorse encountered the creature during a routine patrol near Hidden Lake. His official report, initially dismissed by supervisors, described an elk of extraordinary proportions. The animal stood at least 7 feet at the shoulder, significantly larger than any elk specimen on record. Most remarkable were the antlers, which I estimate spanned at least 22 feet from tip to tip, with 47 distinct points per side. Whitehorse's measurements, if accurate, describe antlers nearly 3 times larger than the current world record. Biological experts immediately questioned the account, noting that antlers of such size would be physically impossible for any elk to support. The calcium and phosphorus requirements alone would exceed what any individual animal could metabolize, and the weight would make normal movement impossible. Yet similar sightings continued throughout the decades, with remarkable consistency in witness descriptions. The creature appears most frequently during dawn and dusk hours, often materializing near alpine lakes or mountain meadows where normal elk populations graze. Witnesses consistently describe the same impossible antler configuration, a complex branching structure that seems to incorporate geometric patterns resembling crystalline formations rather than natural bone growth. Wildlife photographer James Morrison spent 15 years attempting to capture photographic evidence of the phantom elk, finally succeeding in 1967 during a chance encounter at sunrise. His photographs show a massive elk silhouette against the morning sky, with antler formations that appear to extend beyond the frame boundaries. However, when the images were analyzed, experts noted visual distortions that suggested either photographic manipulation or optical phenomena that couldn't be explained. The antlers appear to bend light around their edges, optical physicist Dr. Sarah Chen observed. The photographic evidence shows refractive properties that shouldn't exist in biological structures. Either we're dealing with a hoax, or this creature possesses physical characteristics that violate known laws of biology and physics. Native American traditions provide crucial context for understanding the phantom elk's significance. Blackfeet Elder Thomas. Heavy Runner shares tribal knowledge. Our ancestors spoke of Apikuni, the great elk spirit who carries the wisdom of the mountains in his crown of light. His antlers are not made of bone, but of solidified starlight. And he appears to those who need guidance in times of great change. According to Blackfeet cosmology, spirit animals serve as messengers between the physical world and the realm of ancestral wisdom. The phantom elk represents the connection between earthbound existence and cosmic consciousness, appearing when the natural world faces threats that require spiritual intervention. Modern sightings of the creature often coincide with significant environmental events in the Glacier Peak region. The elk appeared repeatedly during the severe drought of 1936, before major avalanches and prior to forest fires that dramatically altered the ecosystem. Some researchers theorize that the creature may be a manifestation of the mountain ecosystem's collective consciousness, responding to environmental stress. Dr. Robert Winterhawk, a cognitive biologist studying anomalous wildlife encounters, has documented over 200 phantom elk sightings since 1980. His research reveals patterns that suggest the creature exists partially outside normal space-time constraints. Witnesses frequently report that the elk appears and disappears instantaneously, without the gradual approach and departure typical of normal wildlife encounters. The creature seems to manifest when specific psychological and environmental conditions align. The phantom elk's behavior differs dramatically from normal elk patterns. Rather than fleeing from human presence, the creature often approaches observers, maintaining eye contact that witnesses describe as profoundly intelligent and emotionally penetrating. Many report receiving telepathic communications during these encounters, wordless messages about environmental conservation, spiritual awakening, or personal life guidance. Recent genetic studies of elk populations in the Glacier Peak region have revealed unusual DNA variations that don't match known North American elk subspecies. Some samples contain genetic sequences that appear to be artificially enhanced or modified through unknown processes. These anomalous genetic markers are found only in elk populations that inhabit the specific areas where phantom elk sightings occur most frequently. The creature's antlers reportedly change appearance based on lighting conditions and observer perspective. Some witnesses describe them as translucent crystal formations that refract sunlight into rainbow patterns. Others report seeing complex geometric structures that seem to incorporate mathematical relationships found in sacred geometry. The antlers appear to be living crystal rather than dead bone, pulsing with internal light during certain atmospheric conditions. Trail cameras positioned throughout the phantom elk's habitat have produced intriguing but inconclusive results. The creature appears in some photographs as a normal-sized elk, while other images show the massive proportions described by witnesses. Most puzzling are images that seem to capture the elk in multiple locations simultaneously, suggesting either equipment malfunction or the creature's ability to exist in several places at once. The phantom elk's environmental impact extends beyond its own mysterious existence. Areas where the creature is frequently sighted show enhanced biodiversity, with plant and animal populations thriving in ways that exceed normal ecological expectations. The elk appears to function as a catalyst for environmental healing and regeneration. Visitors who encounter the phantom elk report lasting psychological and spiritual transformations. Many describe the experience as life-changing, leading to careers in environmental conservation, spiritual awakening, or artistic expression inspired by the creature's otherworldly presence. The elk seems to serve as a bridge between human consciousness and the wild consciousness of the natural world. Scientific expeditions continue attempting to study the creature using conventional research methods, but the phantom elk appears to exist beyond the reach of normal scientific observation. It represents the liminal space where mythology meets reality, where the impossible becomes possible in the pristine wilderness of the American West. Impossible creatures roam the boundaries of reality, while human settlements face visitations from realms beyond understanding. In the vast silence of the desert night, beneath stars that have witnessed countless mysteries unfold and fade like morning frost, the western frontier keeps its eternal vigil. Each unexplained phenomenon, each ghostly encounter, each impossible event serves as a gentle reminder that reality extends far beyond the boundaries of human understanding. Perhaps the true mystery lies not in solving these enigmas, but in allowing them to exist as doorways to wonder. In a universe where consciousness itself remains the deepest puzzle, might the very act of questioning be more sacred than any answer we could discover?